The Galactic Center is located at 26 degrees Sagittarius. And we are there now. In the heart of consciousness, beyond the realm of space and time, the cosmic power of transformation is upon us. Here in the Galactic Center. It's a mystical adventure and a better way to live. Finding harmony and balance in a journey to the light that lies within. So let the psychic cruise begin. Release your mind, unwind the time. Welcome to the Galactic Center.
Isn't it terrific? Father Time just warped in. Hi, Father Time. How nice to have you here in the Galactic Center.
Thank you, my dear, but I feel awful. I feel as if I'm getting old.
But I thought you're timeless.
Oh, even so, it feels as if I'm running out of time.
Well, this should help. You're just in time for our next segment on anti-aging. The topic is anti-aging. This is Dr. Walter Essman. He's written 26 books and over 200 articles on endocrinology, brain chemistry, and anti-aging. Welcome to the Galactic Center.
Thank you very much.
What can you tell us, Dr. Essman, about, first of all, what is endocrinology and how does that relate to aging, the aging process?
Okay, fine. Endocrinology is the study of hormones and the glands from which those hormones are produced. And of course we have throughout the body, from our brain on downward, a number of very important glands that not only produce but also regulate the hormones that control major functions throughout our body, throughout our lifetime.
Okay, you want to list some of these and how they affect aging in particular?
Well, the relationship between certain hormones and aging is that as we age, there are some specific hormones which begin to decline. And that decline usually occurs after the age of 20 to 25. These hormones will start at the top with human growth hormone, which is produced by the pituitary gland. And we have at least two major adrenal hormones that also decrease. One of these is DHEA. Another of them is a hormone called pregnenolone, which is also produced by the adrenal gland. And of course, in females, we know that with aging, and particularly as females approach and go into the menopause, estrogens as well as progesterone are decreased. And in males, not universally, but in large numbers of males, the concentration of testosterone is decreased with aging. So with those changes, we have a lot of other physiological changes and in some cases attendant medical consequences.
Well, we all know certainly about the bone density, the osteoporosis.
Yes, absolutely. And osteoporosis is not exclusively a female disorder. Males can develop osteoporosis as well. So there's no particular preference here for males and females, except perhaps when it comes to changes in the thyroid, where there is definitely an increased incidence among females in developing a reduction in thyroid hormones that can occur with
So
aging.
the metabolism slows down.
Metabolism slows down. There are changes in the density and texture of the hair. There are changes in responses to heat and cold. There are changes in the skin. The skin becomes drier. Particularly the facial skin becomes more difficult to maintain.
Losing elasticity.
Losing elasticity, developing wrinkles, developing fine lines. All of these things will certainly go along with thyroid hormone decreases, but these factors are also affected by other hormones as well. Thyroid is not the only one. Some of the ones that I mentioned also play an important role, particularly human growth hormone.
So someone that is looking to, say, get rid of PMS or is having a perimenopausal symptoms would come to you. You would do a blood workup.
Well, I would do a blood workup initially on every patient. Every patient we do a blood workup that also includes screening for cancer markers. Not that we're looking for it, but we just want to be absolutely sure that if we provide for hormone replacement, that we're not missing something.
Right. Well, as people
And
age,
early
there's more
that's right.
early detection and more
Early
chance of cell breakdown.
That's correct. And so early detection is very important. Based on those findings and also a bone density scan, we then decide which hormones need to be replaced, and we replace them to within normal limits. We don't give pharmacological doses of hormones. We give physiological doses. So the individual never goes beyond their own normal level of hormone activity. And as a result, a lot of things change. They feel incredibly better. They look better. They feel and look younger.
Well, besides anti-aging, we
Yes.
quite often do address the PMS issue on the show.
Right?
And I myself have found out that things like black cohosh and dong quai and St. John's wort can make it a little bit better, and it's a little better, but you're saying that you do need the individual blood workup to get the right amounts happening. And it's not just your estrogen level, you mentioned it's also
progesterone.
Progesterone levels that can give you the PMS.
One also needs to look at the hormones of the pituitary that regulate the secretion of estrogen and progesterone. And by that we mean follicle-stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. And we have to look at these as well. So if there's a hormone imbalance, we want to know whether or not that imbalance is caused by the pituitary or whether it's caused by changes in the ovaries.
Here again, PhD in biochemistry helps us out here because it is a very individual thing. So I may not have the proper levels, even though I eat my soy products and my black cohosh and these other herbs. It's a very individualized way of treating it.
Yes, I mean there are progesterone products, for example, that are derived from Mexican soy. I'm sorry, Mexican yams. Mexican yams. That are sold in health food stores. This may be a very suitable product for some women, and for others it may be totally wrong. So we really have to see it's not just the levels, it's the balance between estrogen and progesterone over the course of the month that are also very important factors.
Okay, very interesting. Getting back to the anti-aging, which we all want to hear about. Let's talk some more about brain chemistry. You mentioned DHEA before,
yes,
which does decline as we age.
It
However,
does.
I do know that if you are a meditator, you can increase your levels of DHEA with a morning meditation, even 20 minutes every morning. They say that someone at the age of 70 can have a higher level of DHEA than someone who's 40.
That's quite
now,
possible.
what is DHEA and what does that hormone do in the bloodstream and how does that affect the body?
Well, correct name for DHEA is an abbreviation. The actual hormone is called dihydroepiandrosterone.
You got that, right? Okay.
And it's produced by the adrenal cortex, the outer portion of the adrenal gland, or glands, I should say. And it begins to decline with aging. I think we brought a chart that shows that. And the decline is slightly different for males and females, but if we look at it here, we see that the peak here for males is at about 20 years of age, and the peak for females is at about 22 years of age. And in both cases, there is a steady decline, a little bit of a peak that occurs here around age 50, but that even with that peak, the levels are much, much lower than they are in the 20s and 30s. And then by the time they get to about age 70, the levels are still extremely low and probably don't decline very much beyond that.
And what exactly does it do?
Well, DHEA does many things, but it probably has a very important role in regulating the immune system and immune function. We are all subject to stress, and stress is of various types. It could be stress associated with the work situation, or stresses associated with personal relationships, or stresses associated with any number of things. When we're subject to stress, the adrenal gland releases another hormone, and that hormone is a hormone called cortisol. Cortisol is also used, and similar derivatives of it are used medicinally. I mean, in the treatment of, for example, rheumatoid arthritis. We know the name cortisone, and cortisone and cortisol are very, very similar. So that cortisol in certain medicinal applications can be beneficial for certain specific types of problems. But cortisol in general, and even its derivatives such as cortisone, do a number of things. For one, they lower the production of white blood cells. And because of this, we become much more susceptible to infections. We become much more susceptible to allergies and allergic reactions. And essentially, we can say that this has really weakened our immune system. DHEA prevents that from happening. So DHEA essentially counteracts the release of cortisol from the adrenal and prevents it from having all of those rather deleterious effects on our immune system.
So you're actually explaining one of the components in your body chemistry that is directly relatable to meditation.
Yes, indeed.
Which, of course, alleviates stress.
Yes.
The opposite of stress is to be in a meditative state, which we try to achieve as often as possible.
Yes, that's quite true.
So that's the opposite of your stress and your cortisol.
It's
now,
really,
they have this on the market. You can
Yes.
go into any vitamin store and they
That's
have
correct.
DHA on the shelf. Does
That's
it work?
correct.
Does that work?
In general, yes, it does work.
Should we start taking it at an early age, or again, does that have to be measured in the bloodstream?
Again, it's not a good idea just to take something blindly, because we don't know how much to take. For example, it's available in doses anywhere from 10 milligrams all the way up to 500 milligrams.
It never has adverse effects, though, does it?
In higher doses, it can have adverse effects, and these adverse effects are particularly notable in females, because DHEA per se has an androgenic action. It produces it leads to the production of a dose-related testosterone increase. So the more DHEA we take, the more testosterone as a result is produced. Testosterone is normally produced from DHEA in the adrenal. So females who take too much
Facial hair?
DHEA will develop facial hair, will undergo voice changes, will become a little bit more aggressive.
However, doesn't the body have its own clocking system? For example, I haven't noticed that too much with women that meditate a lot. I haven't seen them growing more facial hair or anything
Well,
like that.
they may not be producing DHEA to the same level that may occur when people take a dose that's actually
Doses,
higher
right.
than they should be
Than
taking.
what they need, right. Yeah.
Probably not a very good judge of an adequate dose of any hormone is to ask a clerk in a health food store, how much should I take?
Right,
I don't think that's a very good idea.
right. And those shelves are just stocked.
Yes, they are.
We're doing our own research here on the show to try to find out, I mean, what is all of this? you have all kinds of extracts from everything from olive trees, you name it, it's there.
There is, by the way, a metabolite of DHEA, so-called 7-keto, K-E-T-O, DHEA, which does not have the androgenic effects.
Oh, okay.
But does still have the beneficial effects as far as being an anti-stress factor and also possessing the properties of antioxidant activity, which is another important.
Well, that sounds good.
Yes.
So what is that one again for the viewers?
7-keto DHEA. It's a
Let me write that
metabolite
down.
of DHEA.
7-keto
Yes.
DHEA. Okay.
And is also available in health food stores. And I don't have a financial interest in the companies
No,
that make
but
it.
it's just. Okay, well, we can check this out. We'll check it out. And how soon would you start seeing results, do you think?
Well, again, the effects of hormones are very, very individualistic.
And subtle, isn't it?
Yes, very subtle. Some people might see effects within 10 days to 2 weeks. In others, it may take 2 months before they see an effect. But we determine what those effects are and what the patient can basically expect because we measure blood levels after they're taking a hormone. And we see where their hormone has gone to, and we usually see that patients say, oh, I feel better, I'm much more relaxed, I feel stress effects much less acutely than I've done before, and I sleep better, and there are a lot of things that patients will say.
So you know that you have the right amounts kicking in.
Yes, yes.
As we're now approaching the age of molecular medicine, there's been a lot of research on telomeres.
Yes, there is.
And this is, of course, the strand of DNA that controls cell division. So what can you tell us about that?
Well, the telomere is really the tiny tip of the DNA strand. And as our cells divide, that little tip becomes shorter and shorter with each cell division until it reaches a point where it's reached its limit and can get no shorter, but the cells can no longer divide. And that's probably the point where aging really takes its toll.
So the cell has its programming,
Yes.
and say in your average lifespan, it would divide maybe 30 or 40 times, and then it would quit. So
Yes.
with the research that is now being, they're now doing the research to provide the cell with new information that will have it continuing to divide
Yes.
past its lifespan.
They're developing drugs, essentially, or a delivery system for the enzyme telomerase, which will actually prevent the telomere from shortening with cell division. And in theory, if it can be prevented from shortening, then cell division can go on indefinitely. And we can live to a very, very old and hopefully disease-free age.
Very healthy,
Yes.
How far away from this research, from them actually developing something, how far away are we?
I think we are within 5 years of seeing one or more drugs which will accomplish this.
Now, that won't reverse the aging process, but it will arrest it.
Yes, that's right. Presumably. That's the
Okay.
theory, at least.
So hang in there for 5 years at least. Okay, well, that's a good one. I'm waiting for that. That's great.
We all are.
Yes. That would absolutely revolutionize everything on the planet.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
And ruin our Social Security system.
Really, something to think about. What can you tell us about different places on the planet? We've heard of Russia and Georgia. They eat a lot of yogurt there. They live to be 110.
Or more.
Or more. And are they stress-free? How is it different? What are they doing over there that we're not doing here in the United States? Or here
Well,
in
I think
the
for
Western
one,
world?
it's a much simpler lifestyle. I'm sure they don't have automobiles,
Cleaner air.
much cleaner air. They certainly don't have an abundance of department stores and oxygen-starved shopping malls and all of the modern things that we have, and probably a lot of things that they don't have provide them with a much more stress-free environment. There's also possibly a genetic factor. They may just have some genetic component or components which confers better longevity.
Longer telomeres, maybe.
Perhaps. That remains to be demonstrated, but that is quite possible.
They could test for that.
That can
That's
be tested.
interesting.
Yes.
What about the antioxidants that we're hearing so much about lately?
Well,
Vitamin C,
antioxidants.
vitamin E, beta-carotene, you know,
Okay.
pump up every day, they're saying.
Well, let's look at the other side of it. There are many free radicals that are technically molecules or atoms that have only one free electron. And that's what gives them the name free radicals. And probably the most important, if not also the most studied of these, are the oxygen radicals. One of them is called superoxide, and the other one is called the hydroxyl radical. Now these free radicals of oxygen are very, very toxic to cells.
They're also a natural process of the body's
That's
just
right. Any
metabolizing energy and daily living
Absolutely.
process.
Any oxidative process in the body produces free
Free radicals.
We have certain enzymes in our cells that counteract their effects.
There's a balance there.
So there is a balance. We have enzymes such as catalase or superoxide dismutase and others that basically eliminate the free radicals and sort of hold them in check.
However, when you're constantly bombarded every day with
Yes.
pollutants or cigarette smoke,
Yes.
coffee, whatever,
Absolutely.
then you have extra free radicals.
You have extra free radicals.
So you need more broccoli every day.
You can try
Yes.
to remedy this with dietary factors, and you can certainly remedy this with certain hormones if those hormones in fact are.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say if those hormones in fact are not at a level that they should be.
Right. Well, here again now, how do the free radicals affect the aging process?
Well, by essentially acting as toxic factors for cells, they can cause the destruction of certain cells and thereby cause a disease process which is related to such cell destruction. I'll give you an example. Parkinson's disease is now held by many scientists and neurologists to be the result of free radical damage of that area of the brain, which controls the fine motor movements that are essentially lost when an individual develops Parkinson's disease.
Let me ask you about the body-mind-spirit connection and a little bit of mind over matter, which we often also talk about on the show. What if you just simply don't buy into aging and you talk to your cells and do affirmations every morning and program yourself that you are fit and just as wonderful as you were at 25? And do you think that your emotions and your mental thoughts can bathe your cells in extra life force, prana, if you will, and more toxic cleansing if you tell them to do that in the morning? And if you really believe it and program your cells, do you think you can combat the aging process with your mind?
Yes, I think there's certainly good evidence for that. I mean, Dr. Benson up at Harvard has written an entire book on the relaxation hypothesis, and subsequently many investigators have shown that some of the hormones that decline with aging are actually brought up again through relaxation or yoga or any number of related relaxation methodologies. So yes, there is something to that. And I should add that I don't think that hormone replacement per se is the only approach to aging. I think that has to be combined with an appropriate program of nutrition and also an appropriate program of fitness training. So I think you really need that triad in order to get the maximal benefits of an anti-aging program.
It's a combined process here.
Yes.
And I'm still doing okay for 30,000 light years over here. So I know it works. But anyway, so Dr. Esmond, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed the discussion.
I'm going to have to come in for a visit and a little blood workup to get that blood chemistry, the PMS days of the month balanced out. That's the one thing I'm still working on. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, that's all the time we have, but thanks for joining us. From all of us here in the Galactic Center, here's to a little heaven on earth. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.
For information, make contact with the Galactic Center.